General Assembly. How many of you have familiarity with the Colorado General Assembly? Have an idea of what it looks like, where it is? A couple of you? Okay. So the General Assembly in Colorado it's a bicameral institution, two chambers, two houses. So just like in Congress, two chambers, House of Representatives and the Senate. The House of Representatives in Colorado has 65 members, each elected to 2-year terms. The Senate has 35 members, each elected to 4-year terms. They are limited for the House 4 2-year terms, and for the Senate 2 4-year terms. Okay. Both chambers currently are controlled by the Democrats. It's 20 to 15 in the Senate, and I think it's 37 to 28 in the House. Okay. So that gives you an idea of who's there. The perspective. So the number of forestry-related bills that have been promulgated or passed through the General Assembly has increased in recent years. Since 2002, they've gone up. There's been a range. It's seesawed back and forth, but you can see the general trend. 2002, there were 0 bills until they enacted a special session after Hayman, Missionary Ridge, and so forth. So there were actually 6 bills for that one. But we've had as few as 1 bill passed related to forestry in 2006, and this past year we had 15, which was a nightmare to try and keep track of. The subject matter range and the bill complexity is just as varied. We've had some bills pertaining to the State Forest Service that have been over 100 pages long. We've had some that have been 3. The 3-page bills are my favorite. They're easier. And then more recent efforts now include energy, and we're going to talk a little bit about that as we wrap up the presentation. So as we're going through, if there are any questions, something doesn't make sense, please say something, okay? So what survived? Well, the General Assembly introduced 19 different bills. Out of the 19 bills, 15 actually made it through. And technically it should be 16. There's an insurance one we'll talk about, but it's not exactly forestry directly. Also in late January, Governor Hickenlooper issued 3 executive orders that also pertain to forestry. Most of these bills, most of the executive orders, they're going to pertain to wildfire for, I think we all can understand after last year and certainly with recent events why that's the case. So I'm going to talk about 4 of these bills that I think are going to be the most relevant to folks in this room, but there's certainly other ones that I'm happy to talk about, or if you want to send me an email afterwards, we can go into the weeds offline, if you could catch my drift. One that I want to talk to you about, how many of you are familiar with this notation up at the top? Does it look kind of Greekish? A couple of you? All right, for those of you that aren't nodding your heads, HB stands for House Bill. The number after the House Bill is the year of the session, the year in which the law was passed, and then the number afterwards. Okay, House bills are going to start at 1,000, and then the Senate bills, 1,001, and then the Senate bills are going to start at the number 1. Okay, so I can tell automatically by 1,000 that this is going to come out of the House of Representatives, House Bill 1012. Extend wildfire mitigation financial incentives. So starting in 2008, as a private landowner, you could deduct the costs of wildfire reduction treatments on your land. So creating defensible space, hazardous fuels reduction, up to 50% of those costs, up to a max of $5,000. So potentially you could have a maximum of $2,500 you could deduct off of your taxes for the work that you conduct on your own land. That was set to expire this year. So the General Assembly, through this bill, extended the life of that deduction all the way to 2024. Okay? So again, small number below 1,000, Senate Bill 13, Senate Bill 83, creating a prescribed burn program. So this is kind of tangentially related, I think, to some of the interests in this room. This charges the Division of Fire Prevention and Control with developing a prescribed burn program. I think the impact for many of the folks in here is that if you're a private landowner, prescribed burning in this bill does not pertain to open burning under a permit. Furthermore, as private landowners are not required to be certified when conducting a prescribed burn on their own lands. Okay, so you may hear about this program, but if you're conducting it on your own lands, you're not required to go through the certification process that the Division of Fire Prevention and Control is supposed to create. Okay, does that make sense? Please.
We still need permits, though, right?
Yes, so go through the county open burn permits and so forth, but you're not required to go through the certification program. Okay, but again, private landowner on your own land. Okay. 269, this is probably the one that's going to be the most interest, and this is the one that we're going to spend the most time on. Maybe you've seen a lot of ink on this in recent days. This is a wildfire risk reduction grant. So this sets up the Wildfire Risk Reduction Grant Program. It's administered by the Colorado Department of Natural Resources and will operate until 2018 when it sunsets. And there's nearly $10 million, I think it's $9.8 million available for community groups, local governments, state agencies, utilities, and nonprofit groups. So how do you get access to this? Well, the applicants have to contribute 100% matching funds. Okay, so basically it's a 50-50 split. All right, You provide funding, they provide funding right down the middle. From the 100% on your side, no more than 50% of it can come from state sources, okay? So 50% from state sources, basically for the total amount of the grant, 25% of it has to be what we call new money, all right? Or in-kind contributions, all right? You must identify in the process plans to use removed woody material, including efforts to develop traditional wood products and or biomass. Okay, now here's the best part. The State Forest Service can provide technical expertise to meet this objective. Up to 25% of the total grant funding can be used for equipment, okay? And then examples, so what they're looking for. And these were examples issued in the release from the Department of Natural Resources, creating defensible space or fuel breaks, or reducing fuels for watersheds, or reducing fire risk. So if any of that sounds like you might be of interest, something that you might be interested in exploring, then I would probably pay attention to this. If you haven't seen the release or you want additional information, please let me know and I'll send you the link. 273, Renewable Forest Energy Biomass Incentives. Now this one is of interest to me. I've paid a lot of attention to this one. Creates incentives to use biomass in the wildland-urban interface, and particularly there's a strong role for the State Forest Service to play in this bill. Authorize the State Forest Service to provide assistance for communities living in high-risk areas that have developed community wildfire protection plans. And the idea is that the assistance could include developing means for removing this material, okay? Market-based mechanisms. Okay, so some folks have said, well, what about what's going on at the federal level? And so I thought maybe since you all just got done eating that this would be a good time to talk about this. So the House of Representatives, if you haven't heard, voted down the Farm Bill. So don't look for that, at least not anytime soon. All right, so why am I a little discouraged about Congress, like most of us? Well, 112th Congress passed a record low of 283 bills. In recent years, you usually see somewhere between 350 and 550 bills passed. Okay? Huh? 203? 283? Yeah. Well, let's take a look at the progress so far. So we're about 20% of the way through this Congress, and I was going to have this be a guessing game, but I think you can see it. 14 bills, which maybe in this day and age we should be grateful for, but that's discouraging if we're looking for help at the federal level. Okay, so why bring this up? Well, the thought was, and this is courtesy of an idea, many of you know Dr. Kurt Mackes. This was something that he was thinking about. And granted, we're just sending out the feelers for this, but something for discussion, I think. Back in the mid-1980s, Coloradans used 1.1 million cords of firewood. Okay? By the early 2000s, Coloradans harvested only 22,000 cords. Okay? They imported an additional 8,000. Largely your ski resorts are going to import hardwoods from Mexico, but you also have some others coming in from the Pacific Northwest and from Canada. Fire season begins to intensify in the late 1980s to early 1990s. Why? Well, if you can imagine going from 1.1 million cords to 22,000 cords, at the same time you have the enactment of Clean Air Act amendments. You also have end of the energy crisis. You have a decrease in fossil fuel prices. And let's face it, natural gas is sexy. You flip on the switch, you're done. You don't have to haul the pail of ash out. You don't have to worry. You don't have smoke concerns. So is there a way around this? Based on, we have state policies with limited funding, a lot more limited than I was led to believe, and then you have federal gridlock. Subsidized fire suppression activities are unsustainable in the long run. I don't think I'm going to get any argument out of that one, am I? Colorado experiences fewer fires, but these fires are burning with greater intensity. Just ask anyone in South Fork. The public lacks the resources to solely address this problem, so does the private sector by their lonesomes. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, the idea would be to suggest public-private partnerships and do it with individuals.